Welcome back to the channel. This is Wes. And if you're a DC Comics like character fan, whether it be Superman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Batman, it's been a rough few years. You got to admit, whether you're a comic book fan, cartoon fan, movie fan, TV show fan, just the instability going on within the DC brand, and it's just being tossed around in all these deals that are happening, and we're getting reset after reset after reset, and it looks like within the next couple of years it's gonna happen again. This information comes from a Hollywood Reporter article titled "Warner Brothers Discovery Has Bigger Problems Than Its DC Search." They talk about the massive amounts of debts associated with Warner Brothers Discovery, and this is what they had to say. Given the company's daunting challenges, it has become accepted wisdom at the highest levels of the entertainment industry that another deal waits in the wings for Warner Brothers Discovery. For reasons related to the complicated structure of that merger, no negotiations can happen until April of 2024. But at that point, many industry observers believe that Comcast Brian Roberts will make a long-awaited move looking to combine NBC Universal and Warner Brothers Discovery. An industry executive with knowledge of both companies said, "Obviously, Peacock sucks. There are good synergies. I'm sure Roberts is licking his chops because the Warner Brothers Discovery stock is so low, and I think that's Zaslav's end game, get the place sold." Just think about the DCEU itself, the way they try to manage it. First, Zack Snyder was going to be the architect. He was going to lead up. We were going to get this 2-part Justice League movie. And then all of a sudden, no, that's not happening. We're going to bring Joss Whedon in to finish off a 1-part Justice League movie, but that didn't work. So we're going to move him out, and it's no longer going to be a shared universe. We're just going to do kind of artsy style standalone films. But wait, we want it to be a shared universe again, but we created a Batman and a Joker that don't belong in this universe. And the thing is just an absolute mess because there's constantly new direction and new leadership over DC Comics and DC Films. First, you had like Time Warner Media. It was acquired by AT&T, not exactly an entertainment company. They're a communications company. They decided they were going to be a big media conglomerate. Well, what's different about entertainment versus communications? The risk-reward profile of the projects that you go into, it turns out AT&T was not ready for that kind of a risk. They weren't ready for films that would bomb and perhaps making projects that weren't going to be profitable. So they realized, we don't want to be in the entertainment industry. We need to get rid of this. They divested their interest. They end up doing this Warner Brothers Discovery merger. We got Zaslav coming in, seeing what an absolute mess everything is. He's trying to change everything. He's trying to find someone that's going to be in charge of all DC films. And DC characters are one of his 2 big priorities, but he can't find anyone to take the job. And it looks like, according to reports, that Warner Brothers Discovery is already ready to sell the Warner Brothers part of it, likely to Comcast. Obviously, if you're a comic book fan, this trickles down to where we are now. At AT&T, what happened? They started cutting all these jobs, massive amounts of layoffs during the pandemic. They slashed the editorial staff, but when they came back, what happened when they restarted the universe? After Dark Knight's Death Metal, we got Future State, which wasn't supposed to happen because that's why they fired Dan Didio, but it happened anyway, but it was smaller, it was more compacted. We got Infinite Frontier, but they got rid of all the good creators. And we got 5G again. We still got the Magistrate. We still have Superman on Warworld. We still have all these elements that were supposed to be skipped because they were bad ideas from Dan Didio because of all the instability going on. Nobody at DC Comics, whether it be Jim Lee or Marie Javins, can really make a decision at this point. And it looks like they're going to be hamstrung by the instability associated with Warner Media even more in the future. Absolute insanity. The big problem with this, obviously, there's going to be some antitrust stuff, but that's not what this channel is about. We're here for the comic books and the comic book characters. Is in the meantime, David Zaslav is still going to execute his vision of what DC Comics characters in the DCEU should be moving forward. So we're going to move away from what Walter Hamada was doing, and he hasn't been on the job all that long, to a brand new person in charge, and we're going to get a new direction, and then it's going to get sold again, and we're going to get another direction. No wonder they can't compete with the MCU. And of course, there is going to be a trickle-down effect to the comic book business itself because there's going to be instability there as well. No one's going to be able to make any type of long-term planning within the comic book division either. Jim Lee's not going to be able to sit down at a table and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do for the next 8 years. I don't think that he would, But even if he wanted to, he won't be able to. It's going to absolutely be the end of any opportunities to compete with Marvel and the MCU, at least in the short term. Eventually, you hope that there will be some stability, but this is just destroying the brands, the IP. You're getting terrible stories and lackluster creative because there's no long-term consistent vision, and everybody associated with DC Comics and DC Films, as you would imagine, are probably getting their resumes ready because they don't know if they even have a job in the future. And that's one of the big reasons David Zaslav cannot find anyone to take this DC Films guru job. You would think this would be a big deal, right? You could be the Kevin Feige of DC Comics. Kevin Feige built the MCU into an entertainment juggernaut, an empire unto itself. Yet no one wants this job, despite Zaslav saying, you look at Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. These are brands that are known everywhere in the world. We have done a reset. We've restructured the business where we are going to focus, where this is going to be a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. This is what the article has to say about that. And there are several reasons to wonder why anyone with a decent career would want the job. By now, Zaslav has made enough moves to reveal that despite that extensive goodwill tour, he is exactly the tough boss that former Discovery insiders described with the Warner Media Discovery combination first made the news. And with CFO Gunnar Weinfels working to slash the staggering $50 billion plus in debt, the company has content creators wondering publicly what happened to material that disappeared from the streamer without a word of warning, while insiders sent out resumes as layoffs roll. I'm all in favor of having a 10-year plan where your comic book movie universe or just your comic book universe is going to really have an idea of what the end game is, so to speak. But if everyone in the industry already knows that in 2 years, negotiations begin to sell Warner Brothers to NBC Universal, what's the point? You don't get your 10-year plan. You get Zack Snyder in all this. You get to start your universe, and then you have to eject and pop out when you're barely into executing any of the plans that you actually have. And of course, they all get changed along the way. That's why the DCEU just can't be successful right now. We've just had too many changes. Even when you think about like the television and streaming universes, we're going to have one universe that's on the CW that's completely disconnected from all the shows that we're going to do on HBO Max, but there will still be shows on HBO Max that are disconnected from the connected shows that are going to be connected to the Batman movie by Matt Reeves. None of this makes any sense, and it's going to continue to get worse as they continue throwing stuff at the wall with no long-term vision, because nobody in Hollywood wants to take this job because they know it's not going to be stable either. You're going to get the crumbs that are left over. You're not going to go find your Kevin Feige. You're going to find your Kevin Smith. And the people that are really getting screwed over in all this, obviously, are the fans like you and I, but the employees, the people that want to work on these properties that just keep getting hosed over with new ideas. This is the last thing that they had to say in the article, kind of talking about this, that I want to talk about. And apparently, the buzzards are already circling over Warner Brothers Discovery. How long would this gig last? Talking about being the Kevin Feige of DC Films, the company is grappling with heavy debt load and skeptical investors. One former Zaslav exec recently received a letter from a due diligence firm on behalf of an unspecified client asking for his evaluation of Zaslav's leadership style, strategic plans, and likelihood of success. That could suggest various possibilities: a potential acquirer digging around, a dissident shareholder sniffing for weakness, a hedge fund trying to place a bet. So much uncertainty. All this uncertainty all but guarantees that the DCEU, whether it be in film, streaming, television, whatever shape you want to talk about, DC Comics, they're just going to be second fiddle to Marvel for at least the next 10 years. Because right now, we're having a new change in direction for DC Films, likely for DC Comics in the very near future. Obviously, we got a reboot right around the corner. That's going to be happening in 2023. In another 12 months, there's going to be another reset because they're going to be getting ready to sell off to NBC Universal. And then when NBC Universal takes over and they finally figure all that stuff out, which will be another 2 or 3 year process, there will be another strategic vision for DC Comics characters. And by the time this deal goes down, a lot of this stuff might be licensed out when it comes to DC characters. David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery are open for business when it comes to licensing out the characters, whether it be in cartoons, TV shows. Obviously, comic books feel like they're right around the corner. And what happens when those deals go down and this happens, and it's just a mess right now. It's been a strange few months since Warner Brothers Discovery became a thing. Definitely check this video out where I talk about the licensing deals and kind of some of the stuff going around that and the rumors circulating around DC Comics. If you don't see this video right here, there's also a link in the video description if you'd like to see it there.